Wonderful. Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to DecoArt. My name is Pla Schneider, and I'm the senior designer. If you've been with us before for our previous Zoom classes, maybe you notice a different setting. We're on the opposite side of the offices because we're going to be doing some really fun projects today with suede. And if you've never heard of suede, or maybe you have heard of it, but you were wondering how does it work, what it's all about, we're going to get right into that. So again, welcome everyone, and we're going to get started on just the basics. So if we can go to the overhead camera, we're going to cover so much that we're just going to jump right in, you guys. Okay, so Michaels carries 10 colors of this beautiful suede. We're going to work with the plum first. Okay, sorry about that, guys. And I'm going to show you the most basic way to apply it. It's called the cross hatch motion. And I also want you to notice how well it covers, which I really like, especially for those of us that don't like to do multiple, coats of paint. So, okay. So I'm just dipping the brush. You know, this is a wide mouth jar, so you can dip the brush directly into the jar. I'm going over to the wood, and by cross hatch, it literally means you go like in little crosses. So that's another great thing about this paint. You absolutely don't need to be careful with it. You know, as a matter of fact, the more haphazard you apply it, the better it's going to look and the more texture you're going to get. Also, very little prep is required. So if the wood has some scratches and nicks, this will cover a lot of that up. So very, very little prep is required. So that's what it looks like when you apply it with a flat brush. Now what I'm going to do is the same exact application, but with the chip brush. So if you want medium texture, you're going to go with your flat brush. If you want heavy texture, you're going to go with a chip brush. Another thing is, even though this paint is on the thicker side, it dries really fast, which is nice. So while I'm finishing this up here, obviously this is wood, but you know, let's talk about some of the other surfaces that you can apply this onto: glass, metal, terracotta, ceramic. You know, it adheres really nicely to a variety of different surfaces. Okay, so this side is even starting to dry there, so you can see how fast it dries. And you can notice the texture. It's a lot heavier on this side. So again, if you like a heavy texture, you're going to use a chip brush. If you like a medium texture, you're just going to use a flat brush. Okay, so that's your application. We're going to move on to our first technique here. So Michaels has a pretty awesome glass section and a really wide variety of bases. This is just a basic, you know, pretty simple vase, but we're going to completely transform it. And what I'm going to do is an ombre effect. So these paints blend really, really nicely. We're going to put a little bit of the plum. Can we see that? So there's a little bit of plum on one side of my little plate here. And we're going to put this really pretty khaki color on the opposite side. There's a bunch of different ways that you could do ombre, but this to me is the easiest. So a little puddle of both colors on opposite sides of your plate. And you don't have to be super precise, right? Okay, and I'm going to use this brush that I already used with the plum. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take a little bit of the khaki, swirl it in the middle, and a little bit of the plum, and swirl it in the middle. Maybe a little bit more of the khaki. So what you have here is a mix of both colors, obviously. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the vase with the plum color. And again, remember, you're just going to cross hatch. And on glass like this, 2 coats is all it takes to get a full coverage. And I'm going all the way around the bottom third of the vase. And I'm just going to wipe my brush off a little bit. And we're going to dip into this middle color here. And I'm going to go all the way around the middle. So as you could see, the coverage, especially for glass, is pretty amazing. And it goes pretty fast. I'm going to cover this whole vase. Okay, so I'm going to wipe the brush. Let me rinse it this time. And now I'm going straight into the khaki, and I'm going to do the top third. Okay, so at this point, as you could see, it's a very sort of, you know, jagged ombre. So you want to smooth it out a little bit. You can just take a sponge and you're just going to go in between the 2 colors. And that way you're smoothing out and blending the colors. And then I'm taking a new sponge for these 2 colors here. Trying to turn this one-handed. Okay. So this is 1 coat. Of course, you would want to wait for it to dry and add a 2nd coat. And you don't have to wait too long. As soon as it's dry to the touch, you can go ahead with your 2nd coat. So that's your ombre. Thank you. And I'm going to show you one that's already done, one that has 2 coats, just so you could see. So this is the suede color. This is the charcoal down here. And then a little bit of extreme sheen gold accents. That's really pretty. Yeah, that's 2 coats, guys. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Could you get me a wipey? I need to get this color off of the brush right here. Yeah, thank you. So now we're going to do a dry brush effect. If you can rinse this one for me and then try to get a little bit of color off of it. So we have, again, just a flat brush, and here's another vase. It's just a very, very simple cylinder shaped vase. And I'm going to go in with the khaki and again, just do a crosshatch. And my brush is a little bit wet. If it wasn't wet, the coverage here would be even better. So you get the gist of it. You would go all the way around. And this would be 2 coats after it's completely dried. Like higher. So you can see the texture. Okay. And it also feels really neat. You know, it looks like suede. Okay, we're gonna go back to our chip brush and we're gonna do a really fun but super simple dry brush technique. Okay, for this one, let's see, we're gonna use this color called suede. So this is suede in the color suede. This is a favorite, by the way. The color palette, you guys, it was created to mimic actual suede. So they're really sort of muted, beautiful colors that really do, when you brush it on, absolutely has the look of suede. But yeah, this is one of the top colors, really pretty. It's a really warm brown. So what, if you can see that, okay, you're gonna load your brush, but after you load your brush, you wanna take a lot of that paint off. Should I put it closer or is it? Okay, so the trick to dry brushing is to make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush, and you're just gonna go in one direction. And also the texture of the paint helps give it even more of that effect. Yeah, it sort of makes it look aged. And you know, right now, I feel like these warm colors are totally trending. And this is another really cool thing. Right there, I feel like I made a mistake. That's a little bit too much paint. Or it depends on how you like your dry brush, you know, how subtle or bold you want your dry brush. But let's say that this has already dried completely. What I would do is do the same exact effect, but with the opposite color. So this would dry completely. I would go back in and load my brush with the khaki color, wipe most of the paint off, and just go right over that. You don't want to do it while it's wet because then you're just blending the colors and you would get like a peach color. So you definitely want to wait for it to dry. And if anybody has questions, shoot away. I hope you guys are having fun. I hope you're watching. I hope everyone's been crafting a lot at home. I certainly have. Okay, so there you have it. That's a dry brush technique. And this is one of those, it's great for beginner crafters because it's really hard to mess this one up. Remember, if you do, like I did right there, wait for it to dry, go back over it with the other color. All right, moving on. The stencil one, since I have that color out. Okay, next we're going to be stenciling. So here's one that I previously stenciled. And by the way, I was mentioning all of the surfaces that you can use suede on. This is plastic. This is one of those plastic chargers that Michaels has. And they're a great value, you guys, and a really nice size. Look at how big that is. Looks like an expensive plate. Absolutely, it looks like an expensive plate, Elizabeth just said. Okay, so here we have, I already did 2 coats on this plastic charger, again in the cross-hatch motion. And here's a stencil. Now, it's up to you on if you prefer to tape your stencil down or if you just, you know, like holding it. And there's also a bunch of different ways to stencil. I like to use a little cosmetic wedge. I feel like it works well, it's easy. Now, the trick to stenciling and have it not bleed underneath is to have very little paint on your sponge. So I'm gonna dip right into the paint here. So if you can picture this as a little, pyramid, I'm holding the top part and the paint is on the bottom flat part. But after I load it, I dab some of it off. Now, when you do it this way, yes, you might have to do 2 coats, but I think that's better than having it seep underneath, right? Okay, so we're just gonna do a part of this just so you can get the idea. So even though this paint is textured, you can, have it as your base and also stencil with it, which is nice. Okay, we'll do a little bit more on this side. I won't do the whole thing. I just wanted to show you how easy it is. Okay, now I'm going to lift it up. So I'm going to bring this up closer because as you can see, yes, it's very light. I do prefer this method of just doing a very light stencil coat, letting it dry, putting the stencil back over it, and then doing a second coat. Now, that being said, some people like this sort of distressed look. So it just depends on your preference. And then you can possibly, go around with a smaller stencil and add a design there. Okay. We are moving on to color blocking. So for the sake of time, I already masked off this side of the frame. And everybody knows and loves these little wood frames from Michael's, right? They're actually only $1, which is pretty awesome. But when we're done with it, it's not gonna look like it's a $1 frame. I love that. So for this one, unless you have an extremely steady hand, you wanna use masking tape. I would highly recommend using masking tape. So this side, again, it already has the 2 coats. It's completely dry. And I'm just gonna lay the painter's tape or masking tape right across. Press it down. And I did eyeball it the first time and I could tell I was a little crooked there, but that's okay. Because we're gonna paint right over that. And I also am pressing it down on the back. Because of the texture on the suede, the paint will stick down, but not super, super well. So I would recommend going to the back. Okay, that one's ready. And I think I want this one to have a lot of texture. So I'm gonna go with the chip brush. It's to be a little bit drier. It's a little bit wet here. When you're working with the painter's tape, you definitely want to make sure your brush is pretty dry. And by the way, you do want to give the suede jar just a little bit of a shake before you start. I should have mentioned that. Okay. So we're going to do the same crosshatch motion. So that's another thing that I love about this paint. It's pretty much foolproof. The sloppier you brush it on, the better it looks. Look at that brush. Another tip is when you're close to the painter's tape, paint away from it. Try to not paint towards it. That will help, that will prevent the paint from seeping underneath. Okay. Now, when removing the tape, I would suggest not waiting for the paint to dry completely. You can wait maybe a minute or two, but if you wait for the paint to dry, sometimes it forms a bridge with the tape and it will lift up some of the paint. So we're just going to carefully remove. Okay, and there you have a nice, perfect line. And we are moving on to the next technique. So again, back to these little wooden frames. I already painted them. This one in the ombre effect that I showed you, and this one just solid. So we want to jazz them up a little bit. And one of the things I wanted to mention, of course, the suede paint is water-based. Most of our DecoArt products are water-based, which means you can use them, you know, together. So here I have our Galaxy glitter in gold. And for this, I'm using a small brush. And you can do really just about any design you want. I'm just going to do little tiny brush strokes. Not on the whole thing, just little accents. And the contrast between, you know, the really nice velvety matte suede compared to the glitter is really pretty. And when the resin in this glitter actually dries, it will be a lot more sparkly. So I think I just want to have this one be really subtle, just on one side like that.
Which glitter paint are you using?
This is Galaxy glitter in gold. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Maybe it needs a little bit more. I spoke too soon. Not for some people like me, never enough glitter. But you know what I love about this, you guys, you know, the holidays are right around the corner. I couldn't imagine gifting someone just the frame on its own, or maybe you would with some product if it's a crafter, but this looks like an upscale, beautiful frame. Totally giftable. And it would be one of a kind too. Okay. So back to this ombre one. I think what I want to do is some metallic. So this is our extreme sheen in the vintage brass, and I'm going to give it a little shake. With the metallics, you do want to make sure to shake them really well. You want as much sheen as possible. Okay, here we go. And back to the little brush. And I'm going to show you the effect that we're doing, which I showed this already, but we're going to do just those little tiny ovals, which are brush strokes, again, like I did with the glitter, but just tinier. And we're going to go horizontally. Okay. So right where the colors start to mix or start to blend, I'm just going to go across, do little tiny brush strokes. And you can see how fast this goes. It takes no time at all. And I'll show this one up close in just a second. Okay. That's okay. Now we have this one, which again, same thing, just a very simple crosshatch application throughout. As you can see, it has a velvety matte finish. And this is 2 coats. And on this one, I think we're going to do some large ovals, something a little bit bolder. So because this is fairly low contrasting colors, I think you can go really bold with the shapes.
Now you're about halfway on the time.
Oh, okay, good.
So Plum, can you tell us about what the inspiration was for the color palette for these beautiful colors you're seeing?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's inspired by actual suede products, you know, that are already out there. It's a really warm color palette that completely, you know, looks like suede and what you would see in suede garments. And right now, these warm colors are really trending. The color palette, it has a lot of warm colors, and most of them are, you know, on the muted neutral side, and they work really nicely together.
Some questions about painting.
Yes.
With suede on furniture. Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So because this paint comes in an 8-ounce jar, and I am going to get into this further once we show the piece behind me. It's a really good size, you know, for furniture, and there's a lot of great attributes regarding the suede when you're painting on new furniture, but especially when you're painting on thrifted furniture that might have a lot of nicks or scratches. Because it's so textured, it covers a lot of those things up, and there's either, you know, no prepping at all or just very, very nominal. And I'll get more into that when I show the piece behind me here. Okay, so it's just a really nice contrast. Again, the velvety smooth suede, which is really matte, against the metallic. And once it dries, it will have even a higher metallic sheen. Okay, now we have this little horse here, and this one that is done. I just want to show how you can take an item that you might, oh, sure, like that, okay. You know, this is one of those things that you might have around your house, whether it's glass, ceramic, plastic, metal, and you just want to give it a little update. It seems like everyone, you know, that I'm watching on YouTube and they're DIYing their homes, it's all about the beautiful warm colors, the peaches, the rust, the browns, the beiges. So, you know, now is a really good time to have those, you know, really pretty fall colors in your home, even if it's just adding a few accents. So I'm just going to clean this brush. We're going back to just the basic flat brush for this. Now, when painting on glass, it is a good idea to wipe it with rubbing alcohol or Windex, some type of a glass cleaner before you get started. So this guy's painted in suede, and we want this one to match. And again, even on figurines, you can see I'm going in a crosshatch motion here. And this one is going to take 2 coats. And the paint will look, you know, like most paints, it's going to look a little bit darker when it's dry. So if you have something, you know, sitting in your attic or your basement that you haven't brought out because either it was the wrong color or because you just thought it was too plain or just, you know, didn't match your decor, the suede is a really good option. And again, I just love that it's very little to no prep, and it just gives you this instant texture. I also like this 8-ounce size because it's large enough, like I mentioned, you know, for furniture pieces, for smaller furniture pieces, small to medium, but it's also not, you know, so big that you wouldn't want to craft with it or make accessories to go with your furniture pieces. Okay, so see, that was pretty fast. And again, I would wait for it to dry and then add a second coat. Okay, let's move this over here. Now I'm bringing back, remember, the very first piece that I started with. And the reason I'm doing that is, number one, so you could see how fast it dried. And number two, so you could see what that 2 coats really do give you a nice full coverage. And this is a nice rich color, plum. Give it a little shake. And on your second coat, you want to do the same exact crosshatch. And remember, for medium texture, you're going to use a flat brush. For extra texture, you're going to use a chip brush. Do you guys have any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think people are interested in seeing the big piece of furniture behind you too, the new painted.
Yeah.
Nice color.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe some of the finished pieces like all collected together so they can see what that really looks like.
Okay. So I'm just going to bring this up a little bit closer so you can see the coverage. Okay. So now we're going to scooch this out of the way.
Okay.
Front view camera.
Yeah. So we're going to be going to the front view here in just a second, because I was, talking about furniture, so you might as well see what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Is it on the front view? No, she doesn't. Can we go to the front view camera?
Uh-oh.
Perfect. Can you see that?
Okay, everyone, are we front view now? Wonderful. So this piece here is really pretty. I love these colors, and it's funny, it's the exact opposite of what we were talking about, because this is the cool colors. But again, they're nice and muted. They still totally will remind you of suede. So the top part here was painted with our chalky finish, but the entire bottom part from here all the way down to the legs was painted with suede. And again, this was a thrifted piece, and zero sanding, zero prep. It was just coming in, taking the little knobs off here and doing a cross hatch. Should we see this closer? Can you see that texture on camera, I hope? Okay, we're coming in closer. Okay, so can you see how that really looks just like suede, and it's a nice velvety, totally matte finish, and you can see the contrast, the chalky finish compared to the suede. And again, it was a thrifted piece, very little prep work. This paint is super easy to work with. I would consider it almost 100% foolproof, because again, the easier, if you just slap the paint on and go in a crosshatch motion, you can't go wrong. You don't have to worry about streaks, because you're going for that effect and you want the texture there. And then if you can just zoom in over here. So we have, I love the contrast of, you have your suede here, then your chalky, and then again you have your suede accents up on top.
Did you sand the table?
I did not. I did not. I do understand that some thrifted pieces will need a little bit more sanding. This one was in pretty good shape, so it didn't need much, didn't need prep at all. Okay, so we're going to move on to the other color scheme, which is this bookcase over here. We created a lot of fun projects today, and because we're still drawing, we're obviously not going to be decorating the bookcase with those. We're just going to work with, what's here already. So when decorating the bookcase, one of the first things I would keep in mind, because sometimes I feel like it could be overwhelming because it's a lot to decorate, is I would start by just looking at one section at a time. And then, it's good. Okay. Because, you know, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5 shelving units. And I know that could be a little bit overwhelming, but a very easy way to look at it is just in sections. So we're going to start with the top one here. This little piece is, again, I talked about how DecoArt paints are water-based. So it's fun to mix the different lines. So this little base is suede in the khaki color, and then extreme sheen in that vintage brass, just these little circles all throughout.
It just won't let me zoom in.
Oh,
so,
okay.
but you're okay.
Keep going.
Mhm.
Okay.
We can just see
So
you.
I'm gonna
We can
grab-
see all of you.
Could I use that now or no? Oh, okay. So here's the little horse that, you know, was already painted. Another fun thing to use in a bookcase is books. Imagine that. And they're really good for height, or just to add, you know, different textures. I like to see different textures in bookcases. So here we have that plant all alone. It needs something up there. So let's start by grabbing this one, which should give it some height there. Put that right there. And, oh, another thing I wanted to mention. This is a really cute giraffe. You know, Michael's has lions, giraffes, zebras, all kinds of little animals. And this is just a color blocking method, again, with the suede. So maybe we'll put him right there. And this is also a really pretty carafe. And this, because it's a little bit at an angle, I didn't use tape, but I really like that angle there, and that part of it is just, you know, leaving the glass exposed. So sometimes it's fun to not paint the entire piece. So maybe we'll put that one there. Okay, moving on to this section, we have a little planter. So this one, of course, you know, I painted in the light fern. It was just, of course, the glass all the way around, but I think that really added a nice touch. I love this color because even though it's a green, it's extremely neutral. So let's see, we can put that there. And maybe bring in this vase there. Another thing when you're working on, you know, we already did this top section. When you're working in the next section, I see a tall vase here, so maybe this would not work there, right? But it would work in the middle. And then we have the cute little giraffe there, so we wouldn't want the lion, I mean the horse, directly under it. We would want it, you know, somewhere else. But maybe it needs a little bit more height, so we can bring these 3 books over here. There we go. Oh, another little tip. These books do happen to match these colors nicely. But if you have books at home that aren't really going with your color palette or your color scheme, you can always consider just turning them. And of course, there's still color there, but it's a lot more of a neutral look. Okay. And then we can move, this is another little tiny jar. These diffusers are really trending right now. So the rest of the pieces are still wet, so that's as far as we can, you know, go, but baskets are always nice for storage. And also I was talking about texture. You know, here's a little metallic rail. So we have some glass pieces, we have metals, we have the books, of course we have the suede, and then we have the really pretty metallic. So as a whole, it looks really warm and really put together. And another thing, don't feel like, you know, the first time it's going to look perfect. You can just keep moving it around until you're happy with the way it looks. So that's about it, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. So again, let's just do a quick little recap. It's DecoArt Suede. It comes, Michaels carries 10 different colors. It comes in the great 8-ounce size, which is good for furniture. It's great for, you know, craft projects. As far as surfaces, it works on glass, ceramic, metal, even plastic, like you saw the chargers and the little giraffe there. The colors are really beautiful and muted, and they mimic the look of real suede fashion that you're seeing out there. So, you know, give it a shot. It's one of the easiest paints, you know, that you'll ever work with for sure. And it has great coverage. So there's a lot of great attributes to it. So I hope you guys try it out and have fun and let us know. Let us know how you like it. Okay, bye everyone.